Hey, it's me, and welcome to Forward Friday. We've decided every so often to throw in a video blog, and seeing that it's Bell Let's Talk Month, and this week is kind of that week, although we should be encouraging people to talk all the time. We're making a special emphasis today, and as I mentioned in my previous post, I've got a story to tell, and I'm happy to tell it because the ending is the best part of it. As you can see, I'm a big Michigan fan, and this has been a great season for those of us who are Wolverine football fans because not only did we run the table and we were 12 and 0, we won the Big Ten championship, we won the Rose Bowl, and we won the college football championship. So 15 and 0. So I'm wearing this as long as I can. And for those of you that don't care, I feel really bad for you. So today I felt it was important to encourage you with a story about me. In fact, I would go so far as to say that you may not have experienced or will experience some of the things that I have, but maybe you have struggled, or maybe somebody else has struggled, and that you can encourage them. And maybe you can pass this along, share it, like it. And so here we go. I remember the first time I recognized that something was off. I was probably about 14 and a half years old. And I remember walking home from school, and it was spring thaw. And I remember uh, just having this feeling of like, just jump out in the middle of the road, and because you don't deserve to live any longer. And I remember that being crazy because, I was always supposedly happy go lucky, at least in my mind, and enjoying life. But then things started to really escalate. A lot of people never knew that I was bulimic. And a lot of times, as a person who's big or overweight, no one would really put it together that you could be bulimic, but I was. And they really didn't use those terms at that time when I was a teenager. And for those of you who say prehistoric age, not true. So there'd be these suicidal thoughts. There'd be the bulimic issues. A lot of evil thoughts going through my mind, and could never figure it out. It used to drive me crazy. I couldn't understand why, coming from a good home, why would I be thinking these strange thoughts? Um, there was a time in our youth group, we would go over to somebody's house after youth on a Friday night, and our church was downtown. And I recall this one evening where these two sisters lived in a high rise apartment. And for those of you who don't really know, a lot of youth groups back in the day at different churches, the youth group would start from ages 13 through 35. So it did make sense that some of the older ones could be living on their own. So anyway, after Friday night, we go over to their apartment, and a bunch of us, there's chips and pizza and all the rest of it. Then someone had the bright idea, let's go upstairs to the roof. Well, as soon as they said that, I started to like freak out. I could feel like this trembling happening, and I'm like, I don't want to go up there. But we did, and I went up, even though I didn't want to go. I went up, and I remember when we got outside, I realized they're the only high rise that didn't have a fence around the roof. So everybody's running to the side, and you want to look over. The last 10 feet, and I kid you not, I actually crawled my way to the edge. And I know my best friend and my brother and they're, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I fell, just trying to make an excuse. And I wanted to look over to be like everybody else, but I was afraid to look over because I was afraid of what I might want to do to myself. Thankfully, as you can see, nothing happened of the sort, but I remember being so excited to get downstairs. And then as I got older, things started to regret or digress. To slow down, shall we say? And I wasn't having these same issues, but every so often they would just like kind of flare up. I was probably 38, 39, I guess. And one day I was going on a mission to find some lockers for a big event we were doing at our church. And I'll never forget being on the highway, and all of a sudden my mind started to be flooded with these terrible, ugly thoughts, and I couldn't shake them. And a lot of times we don't ask the right question. Sometimes we're going, I don't know why. That moment, I just said, God, what's going on? What's going on? I can't understand this. Like, why am I having these terrible thoughts? Because you see, When I was 7 years old, I was violated by a family friend. I was 7 years old, so this is 1967, 1968, and Man in His World in Montreal had taken place the year before, but people were still coming because it was such a showcase, and so we had people from all around the world, probably about 35 people, show up that summer, and one particular Sunday, we went over to our auntie's place, and she was took care of a home in a very prestigious area in the city. And at some point in the afternoon, I was taken upstairs to this big mansion room, the third floor, and that's where things had happened. Um, I still don't remember all of it, but what I do remember is the words that were said. This is what you did to girls, and don't tell anybody because you'll get in trouble. And I'm so thankful that God protected my brain. Some people would say, "Oh, you just put it out," but to this day, am sure, as I sit here talking to you, that I was protected. So nothing happens until I was 15, and this is when things started to get all haywire, as I said before. But this day on the highway, as I was saying, God, what's going on? I'll never forget it. Just as sure as I'm sitting here, uh, the picture came back into my mind. And what I heard was the reason why you struggled so much with these thoughts was because of what happened to you when you were 7. And I remember just going, I forgive him. I forgive him. And as I said that, it felt like this warm shower just came all over me. Now, I've always said when I've spoken at different conferences or meetings and I've recounted my story, I said, don't cry when you're driving. It's not a good thing. But that was the first freedom. About 7 months later, we're down in Tampa on the Gulf side on a nice vacation. We're in this nice condo on the water. Oh, it's beautiful. And at one point, Kelly said, I'm going to go in, get a shower because we're going to go for supper. So she went in, and we're on the 5th floor. Beautiful, beautiful. No word of a lie. As soon as she was in, not even a minute or two, I felt like all of every evil force showed up on that balcony, and all I could hear was, just jump off, just jump, get it over with. You don't want to live. You don't have a reason to live. And the thing is, I hadn't experienced any of these suicidal tendencies or thoughts for years, but it happened at that afternoon. And at that moment, I realized I can't stay out here. So I went inside and I'm sitting down in the living room. And I remember when Kelly came out, she goes, "What are you doing in here? It's so beautiful outside." I go, "I can't go back out there by myself." And she's looking at me. She's like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "So I'm trying to explain something that's almost unexplainable." And she's looking at me like I'm crazy. And I said, I just can't. Anyway, the night went on. We went out for supper, and on the Sunday we went up to Orlando, and we went to a church service, and the youth minister was speaking. And having been one myself, you usually get one shot a year on a Sunday to speak, and usually you throw down because you only have one chance or one opportunity a year, so to speak. And anyway, he started talking, and he actually had one funny thing. He goes, sometimes people would come and say, "Hey, Pastor, pray for my sugar diabetes," and he'd say, "Well, maybe you should need a bucket of KFC at one sitting," and he made a few other jokes, but true commentaries. And then he said, "How come people allow Uncle Larry to walk into their house and people don't come out the same?" And as soon as he said that, the place became electric. And basically, he was talking about how we allow people to get away with terrible things, terrible acts on our children, et cetera, et cetera. And when he said that, the place exploded. You could hear people crying because obviously it was hitting a nerve. I didn't realize it, but I stood up. And as I stood up and I was just standing there, the same thing happened where in my mind's eye, and I heard a voice, and it was very quiet, but it was very precisely, the reason why you struggled with these suicidal thoughts for so long is because of what happened when you were a little boy. And as soon as I heard that, I felt this shower tap again and just covered me. And that night we went back to the condo, And it was like there was God gave us this electric light show, lightning show extraordinaire, and I had my hands on the rails and never dealt with that again. It was over. And then about a year later, we're watching Dr. Phil. I know some people, I don't like Dr. Phil. I can't stand Dr. Phil. But we were watching Dr. Phil, and I was doing something while we were watching it, and they were talking about anorexia and bulimia. And at one point, I just offered up without realizing right away. I said, "Oh, I used to do that." And Kelly said, "What are you talking about?" I said, and then I realized I said it again. I said, "I used to do that." And then she said, "What?" And then I realized the magnitude of what I had just said. And I said, so we turned off the TV, and she said, "You did that?" And I said, "Yeah." And then as I was thinking about it, when I was a counselor at one of my high schools, a lot of girls used to come and see me who were dealing with anorexia and bulimia. And I thought it was just my training that caused them to want to come and see me. But I was realizing as and the girls would always say, you understand me, you understand us, you get us. And I'm thinking, there's a nurse, a female nurse, there's a female guidance counselor, but they came to see me. I was honored to help them, but the point being that they came and saw me. And as we were talking, the same thing happened again, where it was the reason why you struggled so long with your eating habits and your eating and the eating disorder was because of what happened when you were 7. I'm thankful that I also talked to some mentors and some people as this revelation was taking place to help me figure out how to proceed, how to move. The reason why I tell you that is because there's a lot of people who struggle with different things, different areas. In fact, I did a support group after I had told my story over a period of weeks, and we started a support group. And of the 15 who were in that support group for about 8 months, only one of them could identify with what I had gone through, but everybody could identify with the struggle. And I just want to encourage you today that if you are struggling in any area of your life, could it be that this is the time for you to break free of it? In fact, I believe with all my heart that there's a character, a story, Moses, and most of us, who, even if you're not of a particular faith background, you have heard of Moses, you've heard of the Red Sea. But interestingly enough about Moses was that he actually grew up in the Egyptian court, shall we say. Pharaoh's wife had gotten him out of the water. He grew up under the Egyptian rule, became very wise, knowledgeable, and one day he saw two Israelites fighting. He went to try to break them up. They called him out on the fact that the day before he had broken up an Israelite and an Egyptian fighting. He killed the Egyptian, and then when they called him out, he ran away and he took off, and he was in the desert for years. And then one day there was the story of the burning bush. And a lot of times people say, "Oh, what a story. It's just a story, a fable." But that burning bush moment was God speaking to him, telling him, "You had to go back, and you have to go back to rescue my people." And which is what he did eventually. And I believe that one of the reasons why I tell my story is because maybe someone could be rescued because of what they've heard my story to be. And so today, my encouragement to you is that if you're struggling, could be that your emotions are out of whack, could be that your mind's out of whack, it could be that something has happened to you, somebody did something. Please do not hold it to yourself. Please look for some help. I believe that God can help you. I believe that he's also given skills and abilities to people to help other people who are struggling in different areas of life. So I just want to encourage you today. Hopefully this is a help to know that, hey, I've come out on the other side. There are some tough days. There are some dark days. But I'm here to tell you that life can be different. Life can change. You can be rescued. And in turn, one day you can maybe help rescue somebody else. So hopefully this has been good for you today. I trust that if you enjoyed this, if you thought it was interesting, if you thought somebody could benefit from it, not only just like it, share it with somebody today, and hopefully they will in turn, when they are rescued, they can go rescue somebody else. So it's been great. Hopefully that you enjoyed it. Have a great day, rest of your weekend, and we'll see you again. And leave some comments. Let me know what you think. Maybe you might want to DM me privately, but nonetheless, hopefully you enjoyed this, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care, and go Blue, go Michigan. As you can see, it's not for Mills, it's for Michigan. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.